Call this meeting of the Culver Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Now, say, you stand, pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask the secretary to have roll call, please. Dan Adams, present. Barry McManaway, present. Ian Melton, present. Ian Osborne, present. And John Chris is present. Also note that our building commissioner, Steve Horsey, is here. Thank you. I would entertain a motion that we approve the minutes for the October 19th meeting.
I make a motion. We approve the October 19th minutes.
I'll take it.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the minutes for the October 19th meeting, 2023. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Three agendas or three petitions on the agenda for this evening. First one is case 2023 B16 222 Marmont Street. The application for a variance of Article 6, Section 70 fences, minimum 50% of the surface open for prevent visibility. The request is to keep fence covering place in order to help prevent the dogs getting out of the back. And who is presenting that this evening? Okay, come up. Sure. That's it.
We came here a couple months ago and asked for, I don't remember what we asked
Your
for.
name again.
Oh, sorry, John Miser and my wife Julie. We own the house on Marmont. Basically, we're asking for a variance from the front yard setback on our side yard, instead of the 25 feet to be reduced to 16 feet. The fence in question and the covering does not impede the cross traffic on Marmont and Slate. It's far enough back. Doesn't pose any danger. Simply just asking to keep it to allow it is, you can see through it, not 50%. But it has helped reduce our dogs from jumping the fence that was there when we purchased the home. The fence is about just under 4 feet tall. And that's essentially it. So just asking to have a variance from the 25 feet front yard setback on our side yard to 16 feet. And I think, I don't want to put words in Steve's mouth, but I think he agrees and he can, that it doesn't hinder cross traffic visibility whatsoever.
It does not.
That's all.
You have a letter. Writing in regard to case 2023 B16. Hearing is to take place on November 16, 23 at 6:30 p.m. The Misers are asking for a variance of fence covering in the front yard. My name is Kathy Talbot and I live at 215 South of Hyden, Culver. I am not in favor of the variance being granted. This fence covering is unattractive and does not conform. I don't understand the need or the purpose of the cover. That's signed Kathy Talbot. Okay, questions from any board members?
Can I speak? I would completely disagree that it is more unsightly than our green 1970s fence that it's covering. And it is attached in a way that is very secure, not flopping in the wind. And Miss Talbot doesn't even see our yard from home. I mean, I believe it's her backyard. It comes up to our backyard, but that's not the fence in question. But
As far as, I think it's done the 5 day or whatever.
yeah, absolutely.
And we don't really look at the unsightly part that might be part of the town itself, might be have some kind, we're not involved in the unsightly part of it, but
Yeah, you guys have pictures. I mean, we've made it to look like a black privacy fence the best we could. But it's only this tall, so.
But 50%.
It is doable. The manufacturer said it was 70%. 30% visibility, not 50%.
It's the same deal with, you actually had a decision to have it moved. And
It is.
we gave an extension under that.
Well, we gave them time to come before the board tonight to request the
If he was
variance.
going to request a variance, but other than that, you extension, you hadn't ordered for it.
Correct, pending the outcome of this board meeting.
Right.
The last time we came, it was clear that we didn't file the right thing. We were protesting the other, but when you read the rules, it's certainly, there was no contention of it being out of compliance.
That was your option.
Yeah.
It was building commissioner's job to.
Yep.
Let you know that the non-conforming.
It's a bad line. You say the fence is how tall?
Just under 4 feet tall.
Well, I might suggest that if you put a 5-foot fence, which is the height that's required, it would also keep the yard out for the dog from getting out and not having to have it. So,
A 5 foot, he would jump. I mean,
well,
You mentioned the setback.
Yeah.
Is that required? From the 25 feet side yard? Well, because to the front door,
It is for south fence.
oh, for a solid.
This is a corner lot, so it has two.
So was this put up? You put the fence up, you put the 70%.
I put the covering on. The fence was there when we purchased the home.
So you just basically put a cover on the 70% instead of the required 50%.
The fence that's underneath there is a green Sears chain link fence. And
Right.
so we put the cover on in April, because our dog, every time he saw someone.
I
he would
understand
jump.
that, but yeah, but did you think about the 50% option, which is what we really,
I didn't, because I didn't think my side yard was my front yard. It is what Steve has asked me to remove, for us to remove, is the piece that goes along Slate. The one in the front yard, the one next to my front porch, as well as the one next to it'd be the east side of my home, those we are allowed to keep. It's the one that's running along Slate Street. So the ones in my actual front yard aren't actually being asked to be removed. It's just the side yard, because it's not 25 feet off of the street. It's only 16 feet.
and that's your hardship, is the fact that it's a non-conforming lot and we're talking, 25 or 16 versus 25.
The biggest thing is we were gonna put a privacy fence up, a taller privacy fence up, but thank God we didn't, because I never thought that my side yard was considered my front yard. And it's not technically a front yard, it just has to conform to the front yard setback.
Street setback.
Right.
From the property line, not from the street.
if the fence went from the
Plus the cut street.
northwest corner of the house to the garage, would that be far enough back to have that covering on?
I don't think so.
Something but I don't know. I mean, if it was flush with the house and the garage,
Because you're look at the right of way and where the property line is, it's not very far off the property line itself. You look at it from the street, but if you look at it from the property line, pretty close to the right of way.
But you also said that there was one occasion where the dog did jump the fence with the screen on.
He did. He was over in the other part of the yard, not right by the fence. Generally, if he's over there where he goes to the bathroom is right on the other, right by that side of the house where that covering is. And so that's where he is most of the time. He goes out, does his thing, comes back in. We were having a fire one night and he saw somebody run by and he took off and right over the top because he was far enough away from the fence. But generally, he's done it once since April. He did it 4 or 5 times a week before April. So it's worked. Just, I mean, I guess my only, with reading through the ordinance is that the intent of I think the intent of the rule is for cross traffic, correct? So you don't have a fence in your front yard, like, so people can see.
The intent is for appearance in the community, to keep it a consistent appearance.
It's consistent.
So if everyone had, say, a privacy fence in town, how would that look? Reading through the ordinance. If you're going down the right of ways, that's why like privacy fences can be inside and rear yards, but not in front.
The height requirement, states as far as traffic, you know. Well, but you meet the height where you're at. But you can't make it 6 foot because.
Correct.
Only thing I can see here, honestly, is we're gonna be looking at a variance because your dog gets out.
Well, because you can keep the rest of it up too.
You know,
You can keep the rest of it up. It's just this one strip, is that correct?
it's a strip. Exactly.
Just covering down the west end of side of the property. In the picture, it's for that's different angles. Street.
Any further questions from the board or comments? Any questions or comments from the audience?
I kind of have a question if we're talking about having to remove that side on Slate Street, but we could keep the front, and we're talking about appearances and making it look consistent. That doesn't make sense to me that we could keep it up on sections, but we'd have to take it down on one.
But the part that's not in this pictures that she's referring to is on the south side of the property and it's set back from the front of the house.
It's a side yard rather than a front yard and
It's
that's the disadvantages.
It is a front yard. It is the front yard, but it's set back far
It's
enough.
25 feet.
It's not 25 feet, but what has been allowed is when they're aligned, sit back behind the house and something's existing. You often just let that be there. It's consistent with past practices for quite a while.
For the house itself, but for a fence. I don't know that you've kind of consistency with fences.
We have with the location when they're set back far from the front of the corner. The house sits here and the fence sits back here, even if it's not 25. Depending on the fence itself, there's been degree of allowance there for that.
The fence itself doesn't have to be behind the setback. Never been required for a fence to have to be behind the setback, but it has to be. Whatever, I guess I don't do fences that often, but the height requirement in that 25 feet.
But we have height requirements and visibility requirements for fences.
That's where we're out of compliance, if you will. We're just asking, if it were 25 feet in, we would be fine. But since we're only 16 feet in, we're out of compliance. So we're just asking for a variance to have 16 feet instead of
And you're
25 feet
16 feet from
from the curb.
the curb, so we have to measure from the property.
Right, from the property line. But you're.
Well, that would be-
But you're still putting the fence, but
That'd be
in
way
the
over.
setback, not beyond the setback. So in less than 25 feet.
Right.
So it wouldn't matter if it was only 8 feet, they still be the same requirement. What you have.
I think our lot is only, property line wise, our lot's only maybe 40 feet,
Right.
45 feet total across the whole back from property line to the neighbors. We have a fence there too.
Right.
And we have some fence coverings on that as well. That's not in question because of where it's located.
Any other questions or comments from the audience? Anybody have anything from online? Hear nothing? We ready to move to finding of facts? Remember, if you disagree with any of these, you must vote no on the variance. I'll reread the petition. Petition has been filed by Julie Miser, 222 Mormont, Culver, Indiana, 46501, parcel number 50212020201100000014 to approve a variance of development standards to keep our fence covering in place. Culver zoning ordinance, Article 6, Section 070 states within the limits of the required front yard setback area, no fence shall exceed 5 feet in height and shall have a minimum of 50% of its surface open to prevent visibility. Number 1, general welfare. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Mr. Melcher,
Agreed.
Mr. Osborne,
Agree.
Mr. McManaway,
Agree.
Mr. Christ. Agree. And the chair agrees. Number 2, the adjacent property. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Mr. Melcher,
Agreed.
Mr. Osborne,
Agree.
Mr. McManaway,
Agree.
Mr. Christ. Agree. And the chair agrees. Number 3, practical difficulties. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. This situation shall not be self-imposed, nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction on economic gain. Mr. Melcher.
Agreed.
Mr. Osborne.
Agree.
Mr. McManaway.
Disagree.
Mr. Chris.
Disagree.
And the chair disagrees. We have a motion to approve this variance. But it will not be approved because there's 3 have to vote, but no one.
Let's make a motion to vote on it.
Or you have to say.
You can motion to have the variance and second it. We could put it on, but then it will be turned down, but that's probably what we should do legally.
That formality.
Formality. And he has the option to withdraw as well.
But
I'm confused with what's going on. I don't even know what,
the variance is going to be denied.
for what reason.
We just voted on.
We just.
Well, we got 2 people said yes and 3 people
3
said
people.
no.
That's
But
right.
I-
And so that means it can't pass. Because we have to each vote no.
There has to be
It was
What was the one you voted no on? Sorry, I wasn't, I didn't know.
practical difficulty.
Yeah, why,
situation should not be self-imposed, one thing. In other words, your problem is not because of the fence, it's because of what the fence is used for. And it's not owning to an ordinance as far as what the fence is supposed to be.
Well, we already decided that the last time.
We decided what?
That was out of compliance. We were asking for a variance.
Right.
We were just asking for a variance to approve it.
And it's been
Right.
denied.
Okay. Well,
I mean, that's what our job is here. We either approve it or we don't approve it. If we don't approve it, then that's,
it's fine.
that's,
We will,
and
we'll take it down and
you don't have to take the fence down, but please.
we'll,
If he's not withdrawing, I suggest you still follow through with your motion and vote.
So what
Yeah,
is,
I
can you
agree.
tell me for a second what you mean by if he's not withdrawing? What is that option? I guess we don't know we don't do this stuff, so we don't know the whole formality.
Well, you can't ask for another variance in the next year.
Okay, that's what that means.
If you withdraw, you can apply for a variance. If vote goes and you get denied in the vote, then you can apply for a variance for a year. If
Any
you withdraw, you can reapply for a variance within.
You're talking about any
Right,
variance or?
No, just specific to this.
you guys can vote. We're not gonna, I mean, I'm not gonna pay another $100 for you to say no. I mean, we were just asking for permission with it. It had, no. So I will go around town and I will bring everyone to Steve that's out of compliance. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean.
Well, I'm sorry, sir, but you moved to this town. These
did.
are our regulations. And if you don't like our regulations, you can ask for a variance. You don't get it.
So.
Well, but simply because you didn't get it, don't blame it on everybody else.
But the rule is written and the ordinance is written for
Yes, we know
public
why
safety
the
for
ordinance
cross
is written.
streets.
We know why.
And there's no
ordinance is written.
problem with that. So I don't understand why there's a,
What do you mean
but
there's
it's
no
okay.
problem with that?
there's no problem
There's
with,
obviously some problems with it.
okay.
I mean, you have a neighbor that's complaining, first of all.
Well, and we don't have to
Doesn't
take
think
the
it's
ones
attractive
down that she
because they're
sees.
ugly.
So we'll leave those up and we'll let them flap in the wind and then she'll be really mad. But I mean, it's okay.
If you want to treat your neighbors that way.
I
fine.
don't, I know Kathy. She's a great lady. We'll take it down.
Just
So
to clarify just one thing. If we approve every variance that comes in here, I mean, you say somebody thinks it looks all right, but you got people that drive by there every day that have met the same ordinances and have conformed to that because of the ordinances. And you're asking for a variance and you're asking, you know,
I'm just asking for you to be consistent because there's 8 homes within 2 blocks of my house that are out of compliance. That's all I'm saying. Same rules. And they have privacy fences that are 6, 7 feet tall.
To the building commissioner.
So we're not gonna turn all those in. That's not our intent. It's just, we
No.
thought we would be able to come here with
The
common.
fences that were up prior to the ordinance are all grandfathered in. Once the ordinance is in place, we can't have people retroactively take.
And I
down
was
their
gonna say that as
Sure.
well, but it's not a personal thing. Believe me.
It's fine.
Of course, he has to leave. He's got to go to Plymouth for a meeting. So we're going to carry on here.
Make a motion to approve the variance.
I'll second it. Been moved properly second, we approve the variance. How do you vote on the variance? Or any further discussion? How do you vote on the variance, Mr. Nelson?
Yeah.
Mr. Osborne?
Yes.
Mr. Wade? Mr. Chris?
No.
And the chair votes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, case 2023 B17. 910 West Shore Drive, variance to build out. second floor in front and rear of residence on same footprint. North side yard setback of 3 feet, 3.1 feet at nearest point. South side yard setback at 6.3 feet to the nearest point. Front yard setback to present footprint if required. Mr. Easterday, are you taking this one? Okay,
I'm saying this somewhat in jest. I don't know if I want to follow that.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if I want to follow that.
Oh.
Basically, what we have here is we have a project where we would like to build out the second floor of a structure that already exists. And we're not changing the footprint in any way, shape, or form. We're not changing the coverage of the lot in any way, shape, or form in terms of impervious. We're significantly into the 50. The issue we have is we have a lot that is non-standard. It's 38.0 feet at the shoreline. And the house has been there since, I believe, the 1920s. So we're just sticking to the second floor in front. I'm sorry that my client's not here. I was hoping he'd be here to answer any questions you have, but something had come up and he wasn't able. But I'm glad I can't answer any questions that I can.
I guess my question, one of the questions that I have issues today is, why wasn't this taken? Is this the same owner that bought it? Maybe what was it, 5 years ago, 6 years ago? You have any idea?
I don't know that.
It is the same owner.
It's the same.
I can attest.
Because we went
It's John's neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right next door to John.
I mean, we went through quite a bit with this
I didn't know
back
anything
then,
about that.
and I'm wondering why they're waiting now to, if they want to increase the height, why it wasn't done then. And one of my concerns is the closeness to the houses and how they're going to build it without going on other people's property. If you're only 3.3 feet away, obviously some property is going to be infringed on for building.
Well, I would say not without an agreement. You can't be.
I'm sorry.
Not without an agreement. You
Okay.
can't be. Are you saying there were, I apologize. Are you saying there were previous proceedings before you on this property?
Oh, yeah, right 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was during COVID. It was during,
Okay.
They were doing some changes. And we went through quite a bit, actually.
That meeting was in the library, wasn't it?
yes.
And I haven't been there to look at it since then, but was something added on at that point?
Yes, the deck was added.
It was I thought it was a deck on the front. It's, but now it looks like it's completely wall.
That one is the upstairs.
Over. That is the house before the deck was put on.
Oh, so that's not the present.
That's not the present.
But this picture is,
The picture that shows the house from the lakeside is the picture that was
from before.
shown when the house was being listed for sale.
And that's changed.
Yes,
It's currently just a one-story home.
it's a 1.5 story.
Yeah.
What they requested was to add an elevated deck. And then it was enclosed with not lane, but there's 1x slats, 1x2 slats maybe that have maybe no more than a 1/2 inch gap between them. On all sides. Then the railing of the deck on the north side and a small part of the lake side has that same 1x. And then the remainder of it, the deck that faces the lake is glass. Then they also did considerable interior remodel.
When they moved the deck over, they were gonna move the kitchen or something else.
They moved a lot of stuff.
There was something like that.
But the deck was an addition.
So when, I've got a lot of questions on this. Where it says front yard setback to present footprint if required.
Well, I ran a line from the two adjoining properties and I didn't find that this house encroached upon that line.
On what line? On the setback from the lake?
Yeah, from the lake on the two adjoining properties. But I didn't have a surveyor at that time, because it came to me pretty quickly. I didn't have a surveyor give me those measurements, so I basically said we want to stay with the same footprint.
Do you have any like blueprints or plans on what this addition would look
I can-
like and what the height is and all that
I
good
can
stuff?
get them, yes, I can definitely get them.
Yeah.
So,
So nothing about the footprint has changed.
that's great.
Nothing
Nothing
about
about
the
the
footprint.
No, I mean, that's the only way they can actually do anything on the slot. Basically, it's like,
It's pretty
The
good.
picture that has the GIS boundaries on it. You can see I'll call it triangular section, but it's probably more of a trapezoid. That would be the deck.
yes,
My house is to the north and the Summers house is to the south.
Is that,
And that deck is what was added. And that deck, the furthest most eastern point of that deck is within 1 foot either way of the easternmost side of my deck, which is also elevated, which was built in 2010, completed in 2011.
if I remember right, they did use the line at that time between your property and.
Yes, and I seem to recall that there was some request that northeasternmost corner is beyond the line, the legal line. I mean, that's, I think, where the request for his variance was. That it was like maybe 1 foot past the 25 foot that it has to be.
now, the lot 94 there. I mean, obviously the house is showing, what's showing here in that picture is house is on the south edge of that. Or right in the middle of the south edge.
Over the property, yeah.
And I don't even see how that, if that is the,
That's because the GIS picture's taken from an angle. It's not straight above.
okay,
That's what I was wondering.
so that it does, it is in that lot.
Property line,
Yeah.
that's right, it's roof.
Yeah.
Get that ground,
Um,
further north, come.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this, that the eave on the north side of the house, on the part that is 3 foot from the property line, may not be 3 feet. Okay. And the reason I say that is because I do know for a fact that the property line starts and runs almost parallel to the northern end of the sidewalk, which at one time was put in jointly by my wife's grandfather and the previous owner. And with the agreement that the property line was in the middle of the sidewalk and they shared the cost of building it. And that would have been somewhere around 60 some odd years ago. Survey found that property line wasn't exactly it. It was off by 1 foot and 3 inches, which moved the property line. And basically, at the eastern edge of that sidewalk, we own 4 inches of the sidewalk. And then as you go west, eventually runs the end of the sidewalk is the property line.
So for an addition on the same footprint, you have to request the variances?
No, because it's, half the stuff is where it is now. They got on the same footprint. That's everything had to stay the same.
What is the actual variance being requested?
I'm kind of like Dan. I want to see a picture of what this is.
I gotta see
Okay,
that.
well, I'll be glad.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, we've ran into some things where, same footprint and all of a sudden the thing is a tower.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
Okay, well-
I feel like we've got to see what it's going to look like before we say yes.
I know.
I'm fine with
Let's
it.
see the plans.
Then take a variance, Steve, and go up.
I do have a question.
I mean, you can't even raise the height
Right.
without a variance.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he might need a variance for his height.
No.
No,
No.
there's not a need for variance for height.
No.
Because he's not gonna go up 35 feet.
Well, he
Above
can't go
35.
any further than what he's got.
He's gonna go up, but it's,
But he has to have a variance.
Yes.
yeah, he's gotta get a variance, but he can build up, as I understand it.
Not without
No,
variance.
He can get a variance to build up.
Yes,
Right.
Okay.
we have to approve it. And-
Yes, yes.
And I'm to the point that I want to see what it's going to look like because we're getting too many
With a
houses.
different style roof, you have different style, heat, which can be your foot over that.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean,
Would you allow me to table this to go get some plans and get the architect more involved and we'll probably,
I would
maybe-
maybe that.
Yeah.
maybe,
I thought I'd like, we like what you're talking about.
maybe January instead of December, so we don't have to deal with it in December.
And I would like to have a motion, from one of us that we do that.
Make a motion that we table petition 2023 D17 until a later date when adequate drawings and information can be provided.
Perfect. And I think,
It's been moved and properly second. We table this until a later date.
just say.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Yeah, and definitely would like to see some pictures. So,
Yes.
thanks, Mr. Rich State.
Thank you.
Okay,
See you again.
I haven't seen you in a while, Jim. I mean, what's going on?
Trying to lay low, you guys.
Yes.
That's on me 2 minutes.
Come on, he's coming up.
Hey, if we didn't beat up on you, we wouldn't like.
Keep coming back though, right?
Keep it going back.
That's what I've been told.
If I can digress from the meeting, I was gonna ask your building commissioner, since he left. He's going to the meetings in Marshall County. Are you guys doing a plan commission meeting in December, do you know?
As far as I know, we are.
Okay. It's the same deal. I can either file it in January or I can file it in December. If you want me to do it in January, I can.
can't believe you don't want to come here on the 21st of December.
Yeah.
You said plan commission, you meant BZA?
No, I meant plan. commission.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
He likes us.
See you,
I
Jim.
guess so.
Okay. The last petition on the agenda. Case number 2023 B18 303 North Shore Lane. Application for variance of development to add to the foundation of the house 5 feet to the east. The existing basement will be utilized and the blueprints have the house 5 feet wider than the original. The original foundation is non-conforming. The additional foundation will make the building further non-conforming. The house is 5 to 7 feet from the existing property line, dictated by existing survey stakes. Who's presenting?
My name is Mitchell DeWitt. I'll be representing Culver Educational Foundation. Thank you guys for meeting tonight. Culver Academy has had an initiative to rebuild faculty staff housing. We're going through many of them. This particular property was a small house, not in very good shape. We demolished the existing structure in order to build a new house that was more equipped for our needs. We bought a, set of blueprints from, Madden Home Design. It's called the Deer Run Architectural Plan. It's one of their popular designs. And as we got into it, it appears that, that the footprint is just a little bit bigger than our original footprint. Now, where we have a problem is that our faculty staff housing, we have certain needs and criteria. We need to have it, or we like to have it at a size where we have faculty that have kids, and it kind of helps the community where we have faculty and their kids kind of in the community. So what we determined that we like 4-bedroom houses work well for our needs. So as we looked into this, the burden that it causes is if we're not able to extend this out 5 feet, then we lose an entire bedroom, which therefore kind of reduces its overall value to the academy. It also would make the front facade kind of odd looking, because where we are within within normal planning restrictions, we're looking to bump the house out and make it a little wider. So not being able to bump this out in this location kind of would make that face look a little bit funny. And if you've been in this neighborhood, you can tell that the neighbors all have very nice houses. It's a very nice neighborhood. We want it to be able to kind of sit there and look like it's always lived there, you know, look like it kind of fits in. So, you know, that's one of the things that we're kind of running into. Now, we've looked at our options, right? Because this wasn't our first choice, was to come in here. So, well, hey, maybe we can kind of shift this around on the property line. But unfortunately, if we move the house north, then we end up getting into the north side yard setback, and we'd be asking for a variance on that side of the yard. So what we thought was the best plan was to try and keep this current foundation and just have a small bump out. So I think it's less of an ask than to shift the building north. Shifting it east or west really doesn't do us any favors because we're kind of sitting on that property line. It's one of those problems that we have because the house was sitting there before the house was platted, before we had our setback ordinances. And so the house was never conforming to begin with. So we've got a letter from the neighbor here, Don Fox, who this variance would affect. He is our closest neighbor to that area.
Yeah, I have a copy of that.
You have a copy of that?
I would read this to me.
Yes, would you please?
I'm writing it in reference to the variance requested by the academies in connection with rebuilding the house just to the north of ours. Tracy and I have no objections to the proposed expansion of the house to the east towards North Shore Lane. Like so many lots around the town, once on North Shore Lane are laid out before there was any zoning. The extension of the Academy House by 5 feet towards North Shore Lane provides some much needed living space for the Academy family that occupies the house, while still meeting the front yard setback requirement. Being familiar with the property as we are, the variance is necessary because the existing foundation, which is being used in the rebuild, does not meet the side yard setback from our property at 301 North Shore Lane. Rebuilding on this foundation and adding 5 feet toward North Shore Lane is the most cost-effective and sensible way to proceed. There's a nicely landscaped buffer between our properties, and the reconstruction of 303 North Lane, Shore Lane as proposed by the Academy will not adversely impact us in any way. Please let us know if you or the BZA have any questions. Don and Tracy Fox. I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
How many of these are private homes and how many of the academy owned back here?
So we've got several, I believe we have 4 that work for the academy, but I think only 2 that are academy owned on North Shore.
So which 2 are those? This one you're talking about here?
Yes. Is that the only one
That's what I'm hearing.
okay,
There's only one.
there's only one?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Is that one? This is the only one
That's
that's.
the only one that is owned by the academy, yes, sir.
Okay, good. So we've only got one. Okay.
When was it demoed?
When was it demoed? We had a demo permit about a month ago, or a month and a half ago.
The houses in total are on this.
On the street,
On the
we,
lake.
6.
Well, there are actually, yes, 6, because the one on the, what would be the south east corner, he's on Academy Road technically, so. Don and Tracy on the, the west side, so yeah, 3 on one side, 3 on the other, and then the 4th, the 7th house that actually has, driveway on North Shore Lane is an Academy Road address.
Is that a corner lot?
This is not.
No, no.
The other one is,
Yes, the academy.
Yes.
Road address is
Yes.
a corner lot.
Right. to the east.
So it's got 2 front yards.
Yes, sir.
So to
Yeah.
speak.
correct.
yeah,
Okay, so. There's,
So basically they're
I think there's 7.
6 or 7.
oh,
How wide is the lot?
I don't have that offhand.
You have. Let me ask you this, did the academy or whatever decide on this design before? Were they said, okay, this is what we want to build and then, or did they look at other designs that might have fit the lot a little bit better here?
That's a good question. No, we looked at kind of what fit our needs. And we thought, well, that's a pretty good approximate size. And it looked like as we got out in the field and started measuring everything, that we were about 5 foot off.
Now, the house that you tore down.
Yeah.
And you said the existing basement, so you left the basement.
Correct. And we're gonna reutilize that same
You're
basement.
gonna
as our
utilize
tank.
the basement itself, but you're going to put foundation on each side,
Just a single side,
just on one side.
just a single corner that's already non-conforming. Correct.
No reason you can go to the west.
No, unfortunately, when I measured off of the beacon, I'm already about 16 feet, to the north side yard setback. So,
Right, I'm just talking about as far as you're adding 5 feet, you can add 5 feet to the west side, to the east side.
but I'm still, if I'm moving east and west, I'm not improving the width of the house, if that makes sense. I'm still gonna be non-conforming either east or west, or further non-conforming. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I don't see where you're gonna be further non-conforming.
So-
If that's the property line, that's the reason.
I mean, it's mad.
Yeah.
But, so. We're just looking to add on to this corner right here. Go 5 foot closer to North Shore. Correct, correct.
So
I don't think they're gonna give you an example.
It pushes me off to my back basement
I
foundation,
can't find it.
but then I'm still.
What the lines are.
I'm gonna fight this.
But there's no reason, because I mean, the house is not here.
Correct.
So as far as your design of your house,
The foundation has been kept.
right, but,
Mhm.
right, but that's straight under here, is that correct?
Mhm.
What's this?
That is just an old porch.
Okay,
Mhm.
so, I mean, I'm saying if you could meet the setback here and here, as far as your addition here, you go back where you need to go from the basement, existing basement foundation. Back this way, this was not create any more non-conformities. You know, if you try to come up the corner naturally, you'd be on the other property by the time you got back.
Correct. Correct.
I'm just a simple question as far as why the east, not the west, I guess. I mean, you can design the house as far as square footage any way you want to. I've been building houses for years.
Yeah. Yeah, so trying to keep this back foundation wall and just do a little bump out with the facade right here or was what we were looking to do. Rather than, I can't move this way unless I'm at 15 feet that way.
Are you not moving the entirety of the basement out 5 feet?
No, this will just be a sidewalk grade at 5 feet. Yeah, so it won't be adding on to the basement.
This is Mr. DeWitt.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. DeWitt, you were here for the last variance hearing and I still want to see what you're gonna do here. I want to see the old footprint and I want to see the new footprint and what heights, I want to see everything. I want to see the plan. You know, we're just kind of shooting in the dark here and you're saying this and that, but I need to see something that what you guys want to do.
I also have concerns in that it looks like there's a substantial amount of new foundation that has already been poured. So I'm kind of curious as to that. And it looks like that new foundation is considerably closer to the eastern property line on North Shore than the old house was that's pictured here.
Well, I'm not familiar. My task has been to work on the permits and the approvals. As talking with anybody that's been working on the site, my directive was to not go outside of what's existing. So I did not give direction for them to be pouring foundations and other.
Well, I was out there today and looked at it and there is foundation and there are floor trusses already installed and the underlayment's already there.
Okay, well, they definitely didn't listen to me. Once again, I wasn't attached to that. I can definitely bring guys in to have a meeting about that.
Yeah. Well, I guess the other concern is how could that have happened without getting the approval?
Words of the permit.
Yeah.
I mean, it was been stopped at Marshall County.
Correct. The permitting is stopped at Marshall County waiting on this. And I knew that and that's how I directed.
Yeah, but it was proceeded on. I mean, it's not good news, but.
No, sir.
Yeah. But I would like to hear if anybody else has got anything, any more discussion as far as this you presented. And naturally, you're gonna have to bring back more information.
Okay.
But I know other people have come in here as far as for the meeting. I'd like to hear their.
Yeah, a couple things I want to say. First of all, if this is an individual coming in here doing this, not the academy. I think we would be saying, hey, you're way ahead of where you should be. You've done a lot of things that you shouldn't have done before, simply because the academy bought it. I'm not going to look at this as being anything special. And if I look at the lot here, the house has been torn down. I'm saying, hey, why didn't you set it, put something in there where it meets some setbacks rather than making it bigger and using the same foundation. I'm not happy with taking this, tearing it down, and then putting it back on the same. Put it back on the same footprint, that's one thing. But putting back on the same footprint and extend it, that's completely different.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not happy with this at all. I don't like the design of it. I mean, I don't like the use of that property for that. If the academy owned all this other property, that'd be one thing. But that's why I was asking if these are all private homes, and they are. And to me, they have regulations they have to meet, and those regulations should be met there.
Yes, sir.
But that's my opinion. I don't think we're ready to.
Yeah, I think you definitely need to understand what the lot width is and see what the new blueprint looks like in comparison to that.
Okay.
Right.
And as the president said, when you are building on the same footprint, then you build on the same footprint. If it's any larger, move, change, it's no longer building on the same footprint. It's got to be looked at as a new build, a new house that has to conform to that. So anytime that you want a variance to make it bigger, then you have created your own hardships. And it's self-imposed. Under the practical difficulties, I mean, you're creating your own hardship, basically. So, and I'm not trying to be hard about this. I'm just saying to what we're looking at. So,
Just so you know where we're coming from, so when you come back, that you can answer all of our questions adequately and satisfy us as to whether we're going to give you a variance or not. You know, that's what it comes down to.
I'd also like to know if this west side has like topography change as far as.
Yes, correct. The basement to the west was a walkout.
I guess, Mr. President, can we hear from anybody in the crowd that would like to comment?
Anybody here like to comment?
Well, I just have a couple comments. I'm Francis Ellert and I live on 304 North Shore Lane. You know, on the other side of the affected piece of property. And, you know, I just had a couple of questions about, it looks to me like the foundation that has been poured is a foundation for a garage that was part of the house originally. I mean, I have pictures of the house when, you know, we've owned our home since 1996. So, you know, coming up on, you know, a couple of years, we're going to be 30 years in this neighborhood. So I just have, you know, a couple of questions. You know, I don't fundamentally object to the project, but I object to the way it's going about. New foundation for a garage or something proposed that didn't have permission, at least by what I've been able to find in the Planning Commission minutes and the BZA minutes. I have spoken to the folks at the Academy about transparency, and they've assured me that there would be transparency, but I have not seen that. So you know, like I said, I think that beautifying the neighborhood, the house was in dire need of repair, you know, and so, but and back to your question, Mr. Melchin, about the setback, the west side is a significant topography change in that it would create I mean, they would have to build the foundation, you know, that would be comparable if they went west. You know, if they're just putting a slab to the east, the topography would be accessible to what used to be the front door. But there again, I don't know all of the language, but it seems to me that if North Shore Lane, which is a private lane, is, you know, the street and the easement for the Academy sewage goes through there, that's the front yard setback, as the west would be the backyard setback. Now, I don't know non-conforming to conforming necessarily, you know, I know you know, north-south would be what I would consider side yard, which north would be mine. But there again, that would probably, you know, cause some considerable foundation work to build to the west. So I would just add that for the record. So, you know,
that answers my question.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And like I said, I am not opposed to it. I just would like, you know, having lived there, you know, outside of one neighbor whose parents owned the house and then transferred it to him when they passed. We've lived there the longest of anybody in the neighborhood at this point in time. So I just came to, you know, provide my 2 cents. So appreciate it.
JD, did you have anything?
Hey everyone, JD Ubler, 26 Fleet Parkway. I'm here for a couple of reasons. One, I received a letter about this petition. And two, I think it's good that people participate in local government. So I'm here.
You set up here for a few seconds.
Well, I don't want to keep Dan from Thursday Night Football, but
And IU game.
and yeah, you get, well, you got DVR, I know. So the first comment is around just getting our directions right in the petition. It's my understanding that the side yard setback is for the south side of the property. The petition says an east side yard setback. And so just if we come back again, like, we should get that right. When I sat on the BZA, there were a number of times where we didn't allow for a permit to come through because there was a technical detail that might prevent somebody from coming because they got the directions wrong. So just a technicality there.
Right.
We can fix that, no problem. Second thing, it's my understanding, hearing Mitch share a little bit, it'd be real nice for a lot of people to have a 4th bedroom and a 2-car garage. But sometimes properties don't allow for that. And when I sat on the BZA too, I heard our President Adams share a number of times that that just wasn't in the cards because of the way the property was, conforming or non-conforming. It'd be nice to have those things, but it's not always what the town has allowed for. In fact, we put one family, Dean and Sarah Jones, in a position where we denied a very similar variance for a 2-car garage up against an adjacent property and denied it. And they had to go and buy property from the property owner adjacent. And so I'm just bringing up, as a citizen, a consistency issue. It has nothing to do with the lot or the project or anything like that. It just so happens I got the letter, I looked at it, and I was like, oh, I'll participate in local government and share a couple of observations about this process. So that's all I have for the board. Thanks.
Thank you, JD. Good to hear from you again.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Nice to meet you too.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Francis is actually a past member of the planning commission.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to request to table this?
I would. Thank you for recommending that.
And I would ask for a motion.
I'll have make a motion that we table the case 2023-B16 on ground that you will require for site plan and lot measurements.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much for your time.
We need a second.
Second.
Any further discussion on it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank
you.
Yeah. You also. Yeah. Okay. I see.
Yeah, see ya.
Okay. They didn't ask him if he was coming back in December or January.
Yeah, he's got a little work to do. He might not be back until,
I ain't gonna say,
might have a foundation to take out.
may have foundation. Sounds
Yeah.
very likely.
Well, didn't we run into?
You want me to see if I can find Steve?
Situation of the cats.
Yes.
Okay. Before they.
Yeah.
The ratings.
So,
After reporting, so.
we do have something we need to do, I guess.
Before we do that, we have one other person that's here,
Okay.
and we did not afford him an opportunity to speak.
Oh, back
By
on.
Mr.
Don't we have to-
Yesterday left.
Did you want to add anything from then? This is the neighbor on the opposite side.
Yeah.
John.
The only question I had was because of the question in there about front yard setback, present footprint if required. That's pretty vague, but your request for more blueprints and defined definition will answer all those, and I'll be back at that meeting.
Okay.
So much for that.
Fair
But yeah,
enough.
just going up, I don't have so much problem with that, but if he's gonna go out and block views or something, then I have an issue with that. So, or second floor deck or anything like that, it's gonna block
I mean,
views.
I know on my property, my front yard setback was only, at the time, since they moved the street closer, but at the time, my front of my house was 22 feet
Mhm.
and it was required 25.
Yeah.
And I just wanted a front stoop,
Mhm.
4 feet wide by 3 feet, whatever, come out with the roof over it, just
Mhm.
approach the house without the rain open door. And it was fairly difficult to get that variance approved.
Yeah.
Because it was creating more non-conformity. But due to the hardship as far as anybody coming in, the ice and everything else in the road, the house. The BZA at the time approved it, but they limited me to that 4 feet. Nowhere else. So, so to create more non-conformity is another
Right.
question in this process. But
And it was kind of the same thing, it's kind of, President Adams said, it's like this came before, it was 3 years ago, but they gutted the entire house, changed everything around, and couldn't believe they didn't raise the upstairs at that point in time. I mean, that would have been a logical time to do it, rather than come back and do it as a second, but.
Steve asked that we make a motion to approve the schedule for next year. I think we all have a copy. This is still what we do. It's the third Thursday of the month. This just puts it in writing what it is. So I would entertain a motion.
I will make that motion that we approve the dates and times for 2024 BZA meeting.
Wait a second.
Third.
And we seconded Dan.
That's not taken away from that third Thursday.
The west side of the, or east side of the room.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we approve the calendar for 2024. Any further discussion? Any comments from the audience? None? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. 5-0.
This didn't require a vote here.
We do not have a building commissioner's report, obviously.
He did say, he's working on updating the building code ordinance.
Yeah.
And as I said, there was one new and one potential
Do you remember
for next month. Yeah.
Do you remember building code ordinance?
No,
No, ordinance.
it was, I mean, if there is one, it's old.
That's a good response.
I think it's like a family.
I think that sounds right.
I would entertain a motion that we adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn. Second.
East
side, hit again. East side, hit again.
East side.
That's because the west side's busy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Don't have a gavel, but we're adjourned.
Yeah, but he wants these.
No, but Dan,
You better recycle.
Thanks, guys. Good seeing you. Hey, good seeing you, Cheney. Thanks for coming in, buddy. Nice to see you again. You still gotta come down.
No, man, well, it's not really up to you.
Oh, that's true. You have
That would
the
be nice to
back.
But it's not really up to you, so, yeah.
So you're.
Are we done?